Hi everyone, it's Marissa from the Duxbury Free Library with your Take and Make Crafternoon for this Thursday, September 17th. Today we are making a woven CD coaster, and I decided to do this craft in honor of International Dot Day. International Dot Day was started a number of years ago, and the story is by Peter H. Reynolds. The book is called The Dot, and it's about a student who can't really figure out how to be creative, and the teacher encourages the student to start just by making a mark, making a dot. And since that time, it's sort of turned into a little bit of a book holiday, which I think is really fun. It's a really great read, and you can place a hold on it in our catalog. So on Dot Day, a lot of people do crafts related to dots, and I've seen this. I've seen images of these woven CDs, and I think it's really cool. So you have in your kit the stuff to make a woven CD coaster. You have a CD, and I said it's warped with yarn. So it being warped means it has all the strings ready to weave. So one side has a knot on it, and you're going to work on the side that does not have the knot. Now, a couple years ago was going to use these CDs for another project, and I got most of the silver off. I have this other one. You don't have to have a clear CD to do this. You just want to make sure that the weaving side is the shiny side. So don't think that you have to go trying to figure out how to get the shiny off of your CD if you're gonna if you didn't get a kit, or if you're gonna make another one at home. I'm gonna also go through how to warp a CD to put the yarn on to weave under. It's pretty straightforward, and I know you can do it. So I used gray yarn, and it's pretty thick so you can see what you're doing. And where I tied the knot, I just put a dab of clear nail polish on it just to make it a little bit hard so it won't come apart. So that's your CD. You have a plastic needle. Yours might be clear. This one has a little bit of a label on it. I made these from like the lid of a yogurt container or something. So I just cut out the wedge shapes, rounded the tip part, and punched a hole. If you have a regular plastic needle already, that will work just fine. And because this is wide, it's easier to get under the warped threads. You also have a selection of yarns. So I have this cream color, I have more of this teal, and a dark green. All the kits are different. And if you have extra yarn at home, you can do that as well. The thicker the yarn, the faster your project will go. And then at home, you're gonna need a pair of scissors. I am going to put my warped one aside, and I'm going to show you, ooh, a little windy. I'm going to show you how to start from scratch, because if you didn't get a kit, you might want to do this. You need a plain CD. It could be a DVD. So you want to take a length of yarn, and let me see, you want an odd number of strands. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you want to start, this is when you're going to be going through the hole if you're warping your own, and I want 9. So I've got, sorry, this is kind of hard to show. So that's my end, and then I'm just going to pull it through the hole several times and even it all out at the end. 2, 3. This yarn is thicker, so it's a little bit more tricky. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then this last one I'm going to pull through and tie to my end. So it's really easy to think of it in groups of even numbers, and then you need one odd number. So one extra. So I've got these 2, 4, 6, 8, and then when I tie these 2 together, that'll be 9. So any combination of odd numbers to warp your CD, and then you just tie off the end. You want them decently tight, but not so tight that you can't get a needle under them. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and then I'm just going to trim the extra. You can double knot it if you want to. I'm going to trim the extra yarn, and my CD is warped. So when you're prepping your CD, you go through the center hole of the disc. When you're weaving, you don't go back through that center hole. You're going to go around. So the side has the knot, so I would weave on this side, just so your knot doesn't show. So that, if you didn't get a kit, that's how you get your CD ready for weaving. If you've ever woven anything before, it's an over, under, over, under. So you're just going to go over one of these strands and under the next one, around and around. And because it's an odd number of yarn on your CD already, you don't have to worry about going back. You just keep going around and around and follow that over, under pattern. So I'm going to tilt my camera down so I can show you this. I also wanted to mention about your instructions. I have information about dot day, what you need, the instructions, and on the back I tried to give you a couple visuals. So this is the over under pattern you can see on your CD. This is how to tie an overhand knot. So if you were adding more yarn on, you would tie a really simple overhand knot. And then here are my instructions on how to tie a square knot. Got a little bit cut off. This just makes a stronger knot. You can tie any knot you know how to do. This is just for information, and if you need to look up how to do either of these, there's plenty of tutorials online. Okay, so the first thing I want to do with this is decide what color I want to start with, and for us to be able to see it, I'm going to start with a light color. So I'm just going to start with this cream shade, and this is just so you can see how it looks as it's being woven. So I'm just gonna trim this end a little bit, and I am gonna actually tie my yarn to my needle, which you wouldn't normally do with a regular needle, but in this case I've got plenty of yarn, and the hole in your needle, your plastic needle that I created, is a little bit big, so you don't want it to keep sliding out while you're weaving. So I've got my needle. And like I said, you can buy a plastic needle. They're usually with knitting supplies, or you can make one that's, like I said, I think it's from I don't know what container it was, but like if you have like a yogurt container or a sour cream container, just cut up that lid into little wedges and round the edges and punch a hole. So I am going to tie this double. I'm going to move my other things out of the way. And I want to tie the end of my yarn to my CD loom, if you will. Where's the end? I lost the end. That's the needle. There it is. Now you don't have to start with a piece this long. Actually, I don't think I'm going to start with a piece this long. So you can change your colors as many times as you like. I think I'm going to cut it about here, just so I don't have all of this getting tangled. So I'll put my end out of the way. My extra cream out of the way. So now I'm going to take the end of my yarn and I want to tie it next to any of these strands very close to the center, like that. And I'm just going to tie a square knot. But a regular double knot will do. There we go. Like so. I don't know if I'd trim this end right away. Just want to make sure once you can trim all your ends at the end. So you're going to put your needle under the first strand on your CD, the one that your yarn is tied to, and then go over the next one, and then go under the one after that, and just move it along, and go over and under, and then go over the next one and under. And at this point, I'm going to very gently pull it through just to see where I am at. And this is why it's good if you don't start with a really, really long piece, because you'll be pulling that yarn forever. Okay, so you can see that I've already got my weaving pattern started. So I went under that one. So the next one I'm gonna go over here and then under this one, put my yarn on the front and over and under and over and under, and then I'm just gonna pull through again. So this is your basic weaving motion, just the over and under. And if the tighter you pull it, the more yarn you're going to need. So I'm not going to pull this really tight right now because I just want to give you an example. Now I'm going to trim my end so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. So if I hold it up, you can see this one I started and I went over, and the next one above it I went under. So that's what weaving is, essentially. So we're going to keep going. So I was under that last one, so I'm going to go over, under, over, under. The one thing you just need to watch out for is that you don't accidentally put your needle through one of the strands that's warped onto your CD, because it might get a little tangled and complicated. So there we go. Once I get past this label part, it's going to look, you're going to be able to see it a lot better. So I'm going to do that and then I'll come back to you. Okay, friends, so as you can see, I have continued my over-under weaving pattern. I'm right here. I have a little bit of tail of this color of yarn left, so I'm going to cut it off and tie my next color to this. I'm not going to tie it to the strands on my CD yet. That's going to come at the very end, but I wanted you to see, if you just keep going over and under, it has this nice woven pattern. It looks really cool, I think. I really like this craft. And it's really easy to do with stuff you have around the house. So I'm going to cut this off and then tie on my next color. You don't want to go, before I do that, you don't want to go so far that you don't have any extra So without the knot on my needle, I have about this much. I don't know, it's like 3 or 4 inches. So you always want to give yourself, you don't want to weave to the very, very end and then not have any. You'd have to unweave a couple strands to get that length. So just give yourself a little extra. So right now I'm just going to cut off my needle and untie this loose double knot I made. If it's tight, you can always be very careful and cut the yarn off the needle. But there's my end. I'm just going to put that to the side, and I'm going to do a darker color. So I have this pretty cool looking green. It has a little tinge of red in it, actually. So I'm going to roll out some of this. In your kit, you have about 3 or 4 colors, and you can use them in any combination. You can even, if you have a lot of one color, you could even do the whole disc in one color. So I am going to tie an overhand knot to show you how to do it. It's easier for me to hold up and tie an overhand knot than it is to tie a square knot. So with an overhand knot, you put your 2 ends together and you just sort of loop them over your finger like so and pull the ends through that little loop you made. And that is an overhand knot. So it is pretty straightforward. Like I said, you don't need to learn fancy knots to do this. I just wanted to give you a little extra information. And I'm going to trim the ends, not down all the way to the knot. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of extra there. And now I'm going to tie my yarn back onto my needle, the new color. Just do a little loose knot. Like so. And we're gonna keep going. So on my last one, I went under. So I'm gonna go over this one, under the next, over, under. Over this one, under the next one. And then I'm just gonna pull it through. And you can see my little end sticking up there. It's not really an issue. Oh. You can sort of tuck it under your weaving. So I'm gonna do some more of this green shade and I will come back and show you how that one looks. All right, so you can see where I left off. Because your circle gets bigger as you weave, you're going to need more yarn of like your later colors to have this, if you want the same size stripes. I'm just sort of eyeballing it. So you can see I've ended under this strand. So I'm going to go over this next one. I have this turquoise color. Under, over, under, over, under. Gently pull. You might find that your yarn starts to migrate to the back of your CD. I've had that happen a couple times where it slipped over the back edge here, like onto the back. You just slide it back forward. Just pull, when you're pulling, just pull gently so you can see if any of that is happening. I think it is to me right now a little bit. I also have a couple joins in this yarn. So there are a couple little knots, but pull it so you can put it down so you can see it. And there's my overhand knot that I tied to join. And we keep going. So hopefully by these instructions you figured out the mechanics of the over under And I'm gonna finish this and I'll show you when it's all finished. So I'm just gonna finish it out and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, my friends, so you can see that I finished the turquoise color that I was working on, and then I still had some space left on my CD, and so I added some more of the color I started with, that creamy color. So I'm at the point now where I could tie on more of the dark green and go to the very end, but I'm pretty pleased with how this looks right now, so I'm just gonna tie it off. So I went under the last one, over this one, and now I'm gonna go under this next one, and I'm gonna leave myself a little slack, and I'm just going to tie a regular knot. Before I pull the knot closed, I'm gonna put my finger here and just make sure it's tight. And that's it. And tie off my end. So there is my woven CD coaster. You can absolutely go all the way to the very edge, and if you're doing this and you are pulling really tight, it's going to take a lot more yarn and it will be a much tighter looking weave. This is a little bit loose. Also, if you find that like everything's sort of squooshing to one side and it's off center, you can always smooth it out with your fingers, get it more centered. If you are fine with it being a little off center, that's also great. I wanted to say one more thing. Oh, I have found myself a couple times like mixing up the over under patterns. I'll go under 2. It's really easy to just slide your needle back the way you came to fix that, or leave it because it kind of gives an interesting texture. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial for your woven CD coaster for Dot Day. Happy Dot Day. So you have essentially made a woven dot, which is fun. And you can show us what you made by posting it on Facebook, on our Facebook, or on Instagram, and tagging us at Duxbury Free Library in both places. So I've got it all done here, so I'm gonna put my water bottle right on it. There you go. Hope you enjoyed this Crafternoon. Hope you guys are doing well. I know this week is back to some semblance of school, so I'm wishing you all the best of luck. If you have any questions about this Crafternoon, you can leave a comment. Enjoy, stay safe. Make sure you check back on the library's calendar for other events that we have going on while we're still a little distant. And make sure to come visit us in the library tent on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 11 to 4. You can come and visit the tent and browse some books, as opposed to just putting books on hold and getting them picked up curbside. So we'll see you soon, everybody. Bye. Hi everybody, this is a little postscript to my Crafternoon. This is the book I was referring to for Dot Day, The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds, and I'm not going to read it to you, but I wanted to share some pages I really liked. So this is the story of a girl named Vashti, and she thinks she can't draw. So at the end of art class one day, she's very frustrated. And her teacher says, just make a mark and see where it takes you. So Vashti, because she's frustrated, she jabs at her paper with a marker and makes a dot. And then the next week, the teacher has framed her dot, and Vashti has signed her painting of a dot. And it makes her feel really good that like she made something. And so there's an art show at her school. Let me go back a page. So these are all of the dots she makes in time for the art show for school. So they're all different sizes and different colors, and some are more scribbly, and there's series, and it's really, really special that like she's created something. And so this little boy says to her, "You're awesome at art, and I wish I could draw." And Vashti says to him, "I bet you can." And he says, "No, I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler." And so she says, "To show me." And so he has a pad of paper and he draws his line. And it's squiggly, just like he said it would be. And then she says to him, "Please sign it." And he's like blown away. And I think this is a really powerful story on how just starting with a simple dot or a line can open a whole new world of creativity. I make a variety of things, as you know, since I do Crafternoons a lot. And sometimes starting is the hardest part. So I really like the idea of making your mark no matter how big or how small. And I hope you take this message and you run with it. And I look forward to seeing what you make, whether it's through our Crafternoons or another way. So that's just a little overview of the dot. And feel free to put a hold on it in our catalog. Peter H. Reynolds also has a lot of other great books. So I hope you enjoy, and we'll chat soon.